All right, Phil Fleming here again. I'm going to tell a few Dodd stories. I didn't get a chance to tell these in my original interview, but I want to tell you the story about the time that we all went to see the original Rocky movie at the theater there in Dadeland Theater. And I was very careful with Dodd. I knew his physical strength and ability, and whenever we went out somewhere in public, he doesn't know this, but I would kind of look around and kind of semi-manage him as best I could because he was uncomfortable around a lot of people. And he was a physical specimen, so what would happen is people would turn their heads and stare at him and whatnot, and that made him further uncomfortable. He truly liked to stay in his cave there at the weight room and do his thing. But anyway, I convinced him to go out one time. We went to a movie, and one of our friends, had already seen the movie one time. It had been out about a week. And so he was kind of whispering to Dodd some of the information. And I guess the fella in front didn't take too kindly to that and turned around and told Dodd right to his face, "Well, why don't you just shut up?" Just like that. And I thought, oh no, uh-oh, and he yelled it right in the theater. So I got on my chair where I was sitting down and literally leaped like Jimmy the Superfly Snuka because I knew what was going to happen next. By that time, Dodd had reached out and snatched this individual and literally lifted him up off his feet. When I came flying in, I hit both of them. We all fell to the ground because, I wasn't a tiny individual by no means. And I just absolutely begged the girl who was egging her boyfriend on at the time, I still credit myself for saving this guy's life, to get him the heck out of there as fast as she could. And meanwhile, it was everything I could do to keep Dodd contained. What this guy did was inappropriate. Would have been acceptable to turn around and say, hey, can you guys be quiet, kind of thing. But, that's one of my stories. I have another one where his father, God love Ray Romero, you talk about a work ethic, that's where we all got it from. That man would get up every morning real early. He'd run out to the restaurant that he owned, prepare everything, get it ready for us to come in midday. We would manage at midday. And then Ray Romero, after teaching all day, would come back and then run that thing all night. Well, anyway, there was a time there where Kendall Toyota, which is the local Toyota dealership, held a promo where something they called a handathon. So you would sign up to put your hand on the vehicle, and then literally the last man or woman standing would win the vehicle. Well, we didn't have much money back then, and Mr. Romero, God love him, he said, well, I'm going to get my son a truck. Now, this is an individual that probably legitimately could stay up for 36 hours, maybe even longer. So I figured, if anybody, he has the shot at it. And so we went running up, and it was our job to keep Ray Romero, Mr. Romero, supplies, where he could keep his hand on the truck. We got him enrolled. He was part of it. Sure enough, 6, 8, 10 hours, people were falling off, this and that. Next thing you know, you get into the next day, which is full 24 hours out. 2 or 3 individuals left. I think day 2, 48 hours out, there were 2 or 3 left total. And so I said, well, we need to get some supplies to him. We went running up, and Dodd goes running up. I was driving the van to see what he needed. And I could see Dodd conversing with him off in a distance. We need to get back to the restaurant. But Dodd comes running back to the van. He says, damn, Bill, I'm worried. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, we just brought him all these supplies, and I think he wants to wash up a little bit or something. And I said, well, why did he say that? He said, well, because he said to me, well, you brought everything but the kitchen sink. And so I said, well, hell, we'll go get that too. That's what Dodd. So when Dodd got back in the van, he literally took that we needed to go get a sink and set it up for old Ray Romero there so he could wash himself up and, get ready for another 24 hours. So that's a story there. Also, too, ultimately, God love Ray Romero. He probably got to the point where he was hallucinating and whatnot. I think we were 48 hours plus into this thing. And again, Dodd and I went up to bring him some supplies and see him, check on him. You got to remember, this man was close to 60 years old at the time. Okay? And just one thing led to another. Dodd went up to see him, and Mr. Romero, for whatever reason, just took his hand off the truck to give Dodd a hug. And I'll never forget Dodd's reaction. He kind of hugged his father and realized what was happening. The judges were all there. And said, "Oh, no, you're disqualified as soon as you let go of the truck." So the other fellow won it. But to watch Dodd interact with his father, and you see him hug and literally carry him back to the van. You know, we got Mr. Romero back home where he could get some rest and whatnot. And these types of things that this family was doing for each other at a time where, you know, the resources were minimal, it just absolutely sticks with me until this day, without question. So that there's story number 2. And story number 3, I would say, is one night we had a scheduled workout time. I get over there. I'm 5 minutes ahead of time, whatever time it was, 6 p.m. local time or so. And we would work. It was our second session. We would do morning session, afternoon session. As I'm walking up, I could hear grunting and just loud, you know, kind of discomfort. So I open the door to the gym, and there's Dodd laying in there on the bench press. He'd already started without me. He had physically 4 plates on one side and 3 on the other. I mean, this is how strong this man was. For whatever reason, he forgot a plate. Well, he jumped under the weight, and he started pumping it out anyway. Well, in this case, it bit him a little bit, and he ended up with separating his shoulder. So I come running in. I'm stripping the weight as fast as I can. I think Stan was there, too, his little brother. And ultimately, that was a shoulder injury for Dodd. He was trying to do something that was unprecedented. But what I was doing, and to this day what he doesn't know, remember, I wanted to catch him. Everything I could do to catch his strength. I didn't like that he was stronger than me back then, and I still don't like it to this day. So this is my chance to catch him. He doesn't know this, so when you see this, Dodd, you'll laugh at this. One thing, too, he knew his body, and he knew it well. So he knew that he was injured, and he knew that he would need some downtime. And so he, sure enough, rehabilitated. He took, I'm going to say, a month off, which at that time was very unusual. And while he was doing that, of course, I didn't have a partner. I was doing everything I could do to make gains and to catch him. And so there was a short period there when he came back off that month injury where I could say, "Brother, I was stronger than you there for a little while." But sure enough, a couple weeks back in the saddle, he caught himself right back up, and then within, I think, probably 3 weeks' time, he was back to himself. So that kind of thing is phenomenal as it relates to rehabilitation, and he certainly had a knack for it. But he always knew his body and knew himself well, knew to bunker down and heal himself before he'd get back into the arena. Story number 4. I had him working with me one day. My brother had a landscape company, and we were doing some various work, lift some trees and whatnot. Let me do this. Let me tell the railroad tie story. Well, we needed some railroad ties, and we had found a spot where there was some plentiful. In the middle of the night, he and I would go load these railroad ties, and then we would take and sell them to the nurseryman the next day. Well, I worked myself till absolute physical exhaustion lifting these railroad ties, setting them in the back of this pickup truck. And I'll never forget looking at Dodd, where I was almost passed out. It was everything I had to fill the truck halfway. He finished filling my truck and then filled his truck by himself while I was laying there on the tracks just about completely spent before we drove the 2 trucks back to the ranch where it was we were offloading them. And again, I just remember this kind of thing was just superhuman, supernatural. So for those of you that have had the benefit of having someone like this as a personal trainer, my testimony to you is that you're lucky. because it just doesn't get any better than this. This individual is as strong, as dedicated as they get, and that can take and turn into proper physical training in every technique known to enhance one's physical prowess, without question. So with that, I'll sign off again. That's 4 solid stories. I'm sure I've got some more. Maybe from time to time I could upload them, but that's good stuff, Dot. I love you, brother. Take care.